Alright guys, in today's video I wanted to tell you a story that a fellow foreigner shared with me about how he met his wife. Usually I don't really tell these stories because they're not really anything special or anything out of the ordinary, typically. But this one was quite interesting, so I thought I would share it with you guys. Stick around for the story. Alright guys, so I met up with an expat. I think he was from the US. I can't remember the state that he was from, but he came out here on a 1-month trial to see if it was a place that he could end up retiring at eventually. I think he was a couple years away. I think he was 59 or so. And one of the things, he actually wanted to go into Jollibee and just try it. You know, it's just the flagship fast food joint of the Philippines, and he wanted to go in there and just to give it a try. So he went up to the counter. He's waiting in line, and a very pretty Filipina serves him, and I guess they had made eye contact and smiling at each other, and he wasn't quite sure whether it was she had interest in him or if it was just she was just being friendly. That's how she was with all the customers. Well, he ordered some food. He went back to the table, and he noticed that she was looking at him, and of course he was looking at her, and they were exchanging glances and smiles. So he thought, okay, it seems like she might be interested. But at this point, the restaurant is busy, right? He's already got his meal, he got his drink, he's eating. I think he told me at this point he wasn't super impressed with Jollibee, which most of us aren't, but he did enjoy the chicken. And speaking of Jollibee, really the only thing that I really like is I like the chicken, I like the pies. Other than that, I'm not really a big fan, but I'm not really a big fan of fast food in general. I don't like McDonald's. There's maybe a couple items on the menu that are okay, but for the most part, just not really a fast food type of a person. I'd much rather go to a sit-down restaurant or cook at home. So anyway, back to the story. He's thinking to himself, he's like, okay, it's busy. There's already a long line of people waiting to go see her, to order. And there's other cashiers and there's lines, so he wasn't sure. Even if he stood back in line and ordered more food, which he didn't want, he was not really guaranteed that he would get her again as his cashier. So he decided to leave, and he went back to his hotel and he thought about it, and he's like, well, I guess I could go back again. So he ended up going back, I think 3 days later, and he got lucky. She was again. And he got in line, and of course a different girl calls him to go up, and so he made an excuse. The guy behind him, he's like, I'm still kind of thinking of what I want. He's like, you go ahead. And I think the girl noticed this as well, and when she became available, then he went up to her, and magically all of a sudden he knows what he wants, right? So again, this time he does a little small talk with her. He tells her, hey, how old are you? Where are you from? And a little bit of chit chat. And he tells her, what do you recommend? She says the Jollibee spaghetti. And if you guys don't know, it's not like a traditional Italian or even American style type spaghetti. It's really sweet, and that's how they like it here. So he orders it, and he's like back to the table, and he's like, wow, this just is not what I thought it was going to be. So he got a little small talk out of the way, and he noticed that they're still, looking at each other and stuff. And he says, okay, I will go back one more time on a different day, because he's only here 30 days. And this time I will write out a little note. So he gets a Jollibee napkin. Now, I don't know why he didn't go back home and write it out on a piece of paper, but he wrote it out on a Jollibee napkin. Hi, my name is, I'll just make up a name. My name is David, and I'm this old. I'm from the United States. I'm looking to retire here in the Philippines and, settle down and meet a nice girl. And I was wondering if I could get to know you. Here's my Facebook. And so he goes back in and she's there. I think he had asked her what her schedule was, or what days off she has. And so he knew what days she wasn't working. So he went back in and he got her, and he slips her the Jollibee napkin. Now, this part is quite funny for me because he tells me, he goes, I figured she would open it up and read it. She didn't really pay attention to him. She didn't really look at him. It was quite busy again, so maybe that was it. Anyway, he goes back in again, this time like the next day. And he goes, did you get my message? Did you get my note? She goes, what note? And he goes, I wrote you a note with my Facebook and everything on that napkin. She goes, oh, I thought you were handing me a piece of trash. And she ended up just throwing the napkin away into the trash. So maybe it's not such a good idea to write it out on a napkin, but he tells her, he goes, well, listen, I just want to get to know you. I was wondering, if I could give you my Facebook. And she's like, yeah, I would love to get to know you. And so she actually writes out on a receipt. And when his order came up, she had already wrote out her Facebook on a receipt. And she ended up having a really busy schedule. I think she only had like one day off a week. And this is part of the problem when you come to the Philippines. If you're here just on a limited amount of time, yeah, I know it's always better to be boots on the ground and meet girls who are just out and about and working, just the everyday average type girl. And a lot of people say don't do the dating sites, but this is the problem when you have a limited amount of time. You meet a girl who's working and she gets one day off a week. So they ended up going out twice because that's all the time that she really could give, only having one day off a week. And he had only at this point had a couple weeks left by the time they had arranged to finally go out. And the chemistry was good, and so he decided, I'm going to come right back out. He came back out, I think, like 4 months later. He took another, I think this time only 2 weeks. Well, this time she ended up getting a week off from work, and they really hit it off. And lo and behold, another 6 months passes. He comes back out again in 6 months, and they end up getting engaged at this point. Well, fast forward, if you remember at the beginning, I had told you he was only like 2 years away from retirement. So fast forward, at this point, they're engaged, and he's now at retirement. He moves out here. So they end up getting married, and he ended up settling here, not in Dumaguete, I think, in Bacolod, but he was here in Dumaguete, and we met up for coffee, and he told me his story. And I just thought it was very interesting, the kind of, meeting as at a fast food restaurant. She's your cashier. He ended up going in like four times, and he hated the food other than the chicken and the pies. And the mix up with the note, she thought it was trash that he was handing her, and she threw it away. But it just goes to show you that you really can meet a good Filipina almost anywhere in any kind of situation. And for a lot of us, if you have limited amount of time, it is hard to meet a girl who's working, because if you're only here for a month, and it's typical, a girl sometimes may only get a day off a week, maybe 2 days a week if she's lucky. I've met girls who worked at kiosks in the mall who only got 1 day off a month. Yeah, 1 day off a month. So try to meet one of those girls. At very early on, when I first arrived here, almost 7 years ago, I'd met a beautiful girl at a kiosk who I think she was selling like cell phone covers. And she wanted to go out, but she also had to provide for her family. She was the breadwinner. She was the one who, with the paycheck, buying the food. And she simply did not have time. So, some of these girls, they can't give up their work. And they don't have a day off. And they just are really overworked. So persistent. So be persistent, if there's a girl that you are really interested in, pursue a bit. They actually like somebody who pursues them. And he told me that she confessed and said that, one of the things I liked is, like, she goes, you kept coming back, and I noticed that, you didn't want to go in that cashier's line. You waited for me to become available, and you were letting people go ahead of you, and you put effort into it, and I could tell you're a guy who seemed to be serious, not just some guy who was out dating around, And so they do like to be pursued. They're still a bit old-fashioned that way. They want the guy to pursue. They want you to court, take him out on a date and maybe buy him some chocolates and some flowers, and they like that stuff. So don't be afraid to pursue a girl, and you can meet a girl really almost anywhere. So interesting story. I thought I would share it with you guys. Anyway, guys, check out my website for more information on the Philippines, and even booking a consultation or buying all the things that I highly recommend for traveling or living here in the Philippines. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.